I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
Yeah, I'm Nathan.
And this is Three Old Tech Dudes.
Indeed.
Oh my! Too many toys.
That's
What
right.
kind of fancy piano you got there?
What we got on show and tell this week?
So this is the Korg Monologue, and I put all the stuff on your laptop. It's
all right.
But so this is a current model synthesizer.
Oh.
It is a monophonic synth, and I'll go to a sound. It's not maybe not so. So it's which means you play one note. So it does not do chords.
Right.
It does one sound at a time, much like a Moog did one sound at a time.
It's kind of got a small
more
keyboard
specs?
there.
I
You
got
don't really
it
need
there
a
for
whole
you.
lot of it.
Okay. So it's 25 keys. It is an analog synth, which is really neat because you can actually, in the little OLED screen there, you can see the waveform that's producing. So let me go down to a bass program, and you can create sounds with this thing. We are hearing thunder again. Wow. So let me. So if I want to create, all right. So just a couple of things about monosynths. First of all, of course, it only does one sound at once. And that's all it can ever do. Now, the keyboard itself will do polyphonic out through, so you can run like MIDI out of this thing.
So you could use this as a controller. For
You could use it as a
something
controller, and I
else.
have that before just for a little bit bigger keys than my smaller keyboard. But
Is this the one we use for the controller on the TX81Z?
I
I
think
can't remember which one we
was
was
it
using
this
that
one,
one.
or was it the
It seems similar.
other one? Yeah, I got two smaller ones. Anyway, so this one, it's Korg's current model, and I picked it up at a pawn shop for like less than half the actual price of this thing.
That's wild.
I paid like, I think it was $90 after tax.
Really?
And yeah, either they didn't know what they had, which I can't imagine that. I mean, it says Korg Monologue. You could Google it, but it had sat there for months.
That may have been why it was so cheap.
Yeah, they literally didn't know what to do with the thing. And everyone's like, well, it only makes one sound. Why would I want that? It doesn't play piano.
Well, would they even
Right.
know that though? I mean, if you don't know how to hook it up, I mean, you just put power to it. It's not going to do anything.
It also didn't come with the right power adapter, which I then just bought an aftermarket for it, and hoping it didn't die because they had really messed it up.
Right.
But anyway, so it works perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this thing. So it is a 2 oscillator synthesizer. So you have VCO1, VCO2. You've got a resonant low pass filter. Let me go back to where. So you can, it just gets kind of loud. I'll turn the resonance down. So you can really create good lead lines with this, like or you can do like bass sounds with it by setting all of it up right. So let me just turn on one sound. And then, of course, it has the ADSR envelope, but it's got some drawbacks. The ADSR envelope, which is the sound level control, is really simple with this thing. It's kind of basic. But again, it's not bad. It just, let me get a... Yeah, I can get some volume to it. We're using my beautiful old... But you can, so I can get let me get to a good sound here. So I'll go with square wave there and some triangle here. And it has noise too, so we'll do like, you can do noise.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So it'll do, so you can make like snare sounds. So it'll do like really good bass sounds, really good lead sounds. It would do percussion sounds. But it won't do like chords. So you can't do pads and stuff like that, even though you could potentially do it one note at a time and record, 3 different
just
things.
Put your tracks together, yeah.
But so I've done a couple things. So we'll go to this patch. Is it this one, I think? Yeah. So this is a patch I made already, and you'll obviously recognize it.
So strange.
So yeah,
and things.
So needless to say, you can do a lot of good creation with this thing, and that's really what it was designed for, is to come up with concepts and thoughts and stuff like that. I mean, if you're a musician, you tend to like things that give you a good way to go with stuff. So let me start with one. And then we'll go build up 2. And go up with an octave on that. And you can split them apart differently too. So turn the shapes down. And we can do, so if you look at it, you got your mixer, your filter, but you can do pitch for a correction too. So if you're looking in here, I can set it to, so I bring up both, you can get a so if I go up a couple. Okay, that's just messing with the pitch control, so you're splitting them apart a little bit.
Right.
Then I'll move to, I'll go back. And then it's got some fun things you can do. So you can get a bass sound out of it pretty easily. And then you can go into the sequencer and we can go, so if I want to, let's do a record, so I'll go. So, and then we can just. And then you can. Which is like a terrible way to do it, but
Yeah.
But if I wanted to, I can record, so.
Oh, wow.
So you can start playing around with a lot of things. I kick in the ring modulator. Distortion.
Yep. And you can then start modifying this stuff by adding in some LFOs for different things. So if I want to
So you kind of get the idea, right? So you can use this as a great way to start like a thought creation.
Mm-hmm.
So you can
gives you like creativity, abilities.
And it's so you would think that a monophonic would be limiting as to what you can do, and you're like, why would you want that? Why wouldn't you want to sit at a piano? It's like a full 88 polyphony, and this only has one. But a lot of times, most people don't realize this, and I certainly was the slowest one to get this too.
Okay,
is that sometimes the more restrictive it is, the more it forces you to be creative.
Actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then you start winding up thinking, okay, so if I want to make a sound, I want to start with. I'll go with like a low pitch, so we'll do like I'm going to turn off a bunch of this stuff here because we don't really need it. Like that. But and I want to add in. And you can start really kind of thinking about how to do this kind of stuff. And you can also record this on the fly. So I can go. So if I want to record, but I want to. Actually, I want to reset everything. So I go to edit mode. Actually, let's do it this way. We're just going to like. So if I want to do like. So you can go and assign everything you kind of want to do. And there's so many things you can play around with this thing. Right. You can set, you can manually adjust the speed at which it goes. You can ignore this thing completely and externally trigger this thing.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
You can have this thing be your master clock and send it out to other things.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So I was playing around with this and realized that I could set up, of course it does note, it'll do slide and motion. Motion is like filter movements.
Mm-hmm, sure.
So it can record all that in the sequencer as well.
Right.
But you can also have it set like drum triggers out and things like this. If you if you didn't want to use a DAW like this is a DAW. Mm-hmm. The thing we record audio on is a DAW, or digital audio workstation. Like Logic Pro is one. That's what this is. Pro Tools is one. Such like that. So if you didn't want to do all that and you just wanted to have everything manually, you could run something like this as your main sequencer to trigger other things to do what it wanted to do.
Awesome.
So I picked this thing up. And
you got it for you say you got a pawn shop, right? For nothing.
Yeah.
Here you're saying start there. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's one of those that you don't really think to look sometimes. Well, pawn shop's kind of expensive.
Oh,
but honestly, this thing, I mean, you look it up on eBay, this thing's like $300 bucks.
Right. That's crazy.
I picked this thing up for under $100.
Yeah, that's what you got to wonder.
I don't know. It's hard telling because I had it for a while. I mean, it could have been someone who was just hard up on money. I don't know. It could have been someone who went, I don't like it. I think it sounds terrible. I don't want it. And I'm going, no problem. I'll take that off your hands. It doesn't. This was one of the things that it doesn't have like any internal effects except for distortion. They call it drive. So if you wanted like reverbs and delays and all that kind of stuff, you could easily add on to this thing. It doesn't even have chorus, which if we go back to the video we did on the Juno 1, I turned the chorus on, turn it off. It was like, oh, okay, wow, yeah.
Right.
So this doesn't even have that, but this does have two oscillators, so you can sort of get that pseudo sound. But if you take the output of this and you run it into something like an SPX 90 from the 1980s where it gives you mono in, stereo out.
Right.
It's like,
That's awesome.
And I use this thing to trigger on a few songs I've done for my own stuff here recently. I've triggered this thing, or sending the MIDI out to the TX81 Z, And I've also sent this output from this to my D110 rack synth and just playing around with it. And yeah, I mean, of course, the nice thing is that honestly, I'll turn the volume off, but so if you're sending MIDI out, it feels like it's a polyphonic synth. Mm-hmm. But if you actually just listen to it, it's only one note at a time.
One note at a time, yeah. That's
so
cool.
You can do fun things like have it do one thing and internally do something else because of that.
Sure.
So it's kind of fun. Like I said, it's got it's one of those things that you can just kind of sit there and use it as a in a non-DAW setup.
Right.
Or you can run this into a DAW. It has USB out. It's got MIDI in and out, sync in and out. So you can have this thing trigger, like Korg has their other live little drum machines and stuff like that. It'll trigger those. Mm-hmm. I was actually playing around with the thing, and of course I was having this trigger a Roland drum machine.
Sure, yeah. That's awesome.
It works just fine.
Sure.
It's like it's just one of those fun things. If you want to pick up something fun to play with, look around. You can find these, and they're not terribly that expensive. Even not that expensive compared to new like higher end synths. Mm-hmm. And I want to say they do make a 4 polyphony version, and I think it's a 16. It's a much bigger. Of course, it gives you all the analog. And I've thought about picking up something like that. It's the Mini Log, and I don't remember the other one. I have to go back look it up. The Mini Log is like not much bigger than this, but it gives you like 4 polyphony. So it is actually, it gives you chords.
I think this might be the favorite one you've done that I like.
Yeah, it is.
We've done 4, I guess, on here now.
Something like that.
I think you've got some on Citizen Nerd, but
yep.
Yeah, this one's cool. I like this one.
Yeah, this one is. Everything is pretty well right. There's really no menu diving to this thing. I mean, there's a little bit if you wanted to do it, but there's not because you can go
like the old Atari
mode.
console switches. I like
you
that.
can do some in edit mode and like it actually, but it's like here's the actual menu. So there's one next thing.
Buttons to push.
It's not so bad, but it's the menus aren't heavy diving, and the screen is. I mean, it's tiny. But yeah, for what I wanted to mess around with, which is to be able to create like a bass line or a lead line, this thing works perfectly.
Can't beat it. That's really cool. I hear an echo.
Oh,
there's no reverb on that.
No, I still hear one.
Well, then I
heard somebody screaming.
It must be from that padded room down the hall.
Must be.
It's either that or it's in your head.
It's that time of the show.
Oh, no. Uh-oh. Not that time. What time is it?
It's time for Echoes from the Asylum.
Echoes
that part of the show where we hear from you, the viewer, from the little comment box below.
Who are we hearing from this week?
So be sure to comment on this video, and maybe you'll get a future spot on Echoes from the Asylum. Who are we hearing from this week, you ask?
I do.
Yes.
The Highlander.
The Highlander, eh?
The Highlander commented on Commodore 1702 monitor repair part 2.
Yep.
Part 2. There you go. Not part 1.
Oh, okay.
So, the Highlander says, I have a question. My 1701 has recently developed a buzz coming out of the speaker. It comes up when I turn on the monitor, and dies out when I turn it off. I can hear the frequency drop as the power draws away. The buzz is there when there's nothing connected to the monitor, and it doesn't respond to volume adjustments. I've moved the monitor to another room just to test whether it's from some local interference, but the buzz is exactly the same wherever I put it. Should I start thinking of replacing caps, or might this also be a speaker issue?
I would start with caps.
I was going to say, I'm going to vote caps.
If it's a 60 cycle, assuming you're in the United States, if it's a 60 cycle hum or 50 cycle in, let's say, Europe or, anywhere that's 50 cycle power, or a harmonic of that, like 120 for here or 100 elsewhere. I would. It's caps. I mean, that's just and it's not a hard thing to do. Caps are pretty easy to get. You can obviously there's people who sell the caps. Like here's an entire capacitor set for the 1701, 1702, whatever. Because it's not like there's 2 or 3 of them out there. There's a lot.
A lot of them.
comically with the Stranger Things sound, if you watch part of the show, they show like a wall of monitors, like the security camera monitors, and they are 1701.
Oh, that's awesome.
Monitors. They are Commodore monitors, and they literally painted over with gray paint, but if you look close, you can still see it say Commodore.
That's right.
I'm like, first of all, where did you find all those?
Right.
Second of all, why did you paint them? You know?
Right.
Yeah, they had the reasons, I'm sure, but no, I would start with caps. I would probably, I would start there. That'd be your best probably bet initially. If it's, I'm trying to think if that one, I think that one uses a set power supply for the audio. Sometimes I'll have to go back and look at schematic. I honestly don't have it in front of me, but sometimes they'll use an output from the IHVT, which is usually referred to as a flyback, although IHVT is actually the proper term, which is integrated high voltage transformer.
I did not know that.
Yeah, basically it's a flyback with the diodes in it. But it'll take a picked output of that's like 12 volts and run it from that. So it would not be at 50 or 100 or 50 or 60 cycle. It would be at the horizontal rate, which is in the United States is 15,750, and I don't know PAL territory. I'm sorry.
Right. I suspect this person's in the U.S. So.
But if you're in the United States, it's NTSC, which is 15,750. 15 kilohertz. So it'd be like a high frequency tone. If it's low frequency, it's definitely AC caps. If it's a high frequency, it still could be caps, but it's just coming off a different source.
Right.
I'd say cap. Start with caps. That's
especially with it being there, regardless of the volume setting. That's a pretty clear indicator.
Yeah,
I'd say the speaker's fine.
Yeah, I'd say your speaker's probably fine because the speaker itself doesn't really have any ability to make sound produced without an amplifier. I mean, it's just a coil wire wrapped around a magnet, basically. So it has to have an outside source to make sound. In fact, the fact
that there's sound coming out with the cap issue is an indicator the speaker's probably just fine.
Yeah, I would say your speaker's fine. And even if the speaker does need eventually replaced, you watch the video. The links in there from Parts Express, and they're not that expensive. And that is like the perfect speaker for that thing too, because it doesn't distort the screen from magnetic issues and everything else. Yeah, I would start with caps. Definitely start with caps.
Absolutely. All right. Next up in the asylum, we have from Tinkering with Poppy, who is publicly subscribed to Three Old Tech Dudes. We appreciate that. Thank you.
I love the name, by the way.
It sounds like a neat channel. I have to check it out, see if he's got any good content. This is on one of my favorite videos. This one really grew on me over the years. It's Why Did Justin Buy a Vintage Payphone? We actually shot that at this very table.
Yeah, in the room right over there. Yeah. We've all questioned this, but then
it's a cool. It did turn out. I found that I really did like what was inside a payphone. I never knew.
It's kind of fascinating to see how they did it. Yeah.
So he comments, and I don't remember exactly what this discussion point was in this video, but he comments, "Yes, drive-ins were here in Canada. I think there may be a few more around, but I'm not sure. Also, all the 7-Elevens around me still have payphones. Why, really? I don't know.
Neat.
What I'd love to have is an old parking meter. But that phone is awesome."
Yeah, I bet you eBay can hook you up. I bet you eBay can hook you up with that.
Thought about a parking meter.
I have.
Yeah, haven't thought about I have. Go with your time clocks and payphones. Yeah.
Yes. I collect weird things.
That's all right.
That's okay. Yeah.
That's why you're here.
So, yeah, I don't know why there would still be payphones.
Well, so I know I actually saw a thing. I don't know if it's still the case, but for a while in New York, they were maintaining them and they were actually free to use. So if like and they had Wi-Fi hotspots in them.
Okay. And, they've extended their use to further out the. Well, and that may be what I don't know where he is in Canada, but I guess I could ask my cousin who's in Vancouver.
Or sometimes, a lot of times, local areas were purchased by like little mom and pop operations for payphone usage, and then that little mom and pop place goes out of business, and they just kind of become abandoned. So that could be too.
Yeah, and I don't know how the telephone system is designed in Canada, whether it's owned by government or owned, because for example, in England, I think it's actually like British Telecom or something like that. Actually, and so it's a public entity that owns the phone lines there. I think that's actually more common. In the United States, it was Ma Bell, and then it became broken up into so many little things.
Very hodgepodge.
Sewn
together.
It's all over the place, and I don't know how that was in Canada. So
I'm sure it's not even a little bit the same.
It's hard telling. I know the systems are very connected, obviously, but
Sure.
But as to how those or why you would still have payphones around, but yeah, they might be like that. Maybe it's just in case someone runs out of free use. It may not be free.
I don't know, or
Right.
your battery dies, or what?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like I said, I did send my cousin a note and ask her how.
Ask questions.
Indeed.
It's like, hey, Katie.
She could comment there and end up in
It's like
Echoes from the Asylum.
Hey, Katie, if you watch this, let me know. In Vancouver, are there actually payphones floating around there?
No one related to us watches this. No. No, that's not true.
I don't know. Well,
that's not true.
She probably
People
does.
do. People
Well,
do.
if she knows the channel exists. I don't know. It's funny. She and Adam are up in Vancouver. I don't know. She and
Somewhere
Adam
in Vancouver.
Yeah,
Well.
they live in an expensive city.
I don't hear any more noise in the asylum, so I guess we'll
think
move
they've
on to the
quieted
next
down.
segment.
The voices in Tim's head have gone down.
Thanks for the comment, though.
That'd be a good segment, too. Yeah, that was a good one. Thanks.
Voices in Tim's head.
Yeah.
That's a segment. There we go.
That's terrifying.
That's a segment that we can fix with Drew.
Well, it's time to get wet, and
We'll go outside.
we'll jump out in the water and welcome some people to the waves. Oh, wait, not that kind of waves. We're talking about
to the waves.
Oh, gosh,
It's raining
I
outside
forgot.
now.
You
Gotta
know
do
what
my
else I
surfer
forgot?
voice.
I forgot to close that one video with and this is 3 old viddies talking about nothing. I was going to close that video with that. Oh, that's
fail.
unfortunate. It was gonna be I'm Timmy, I'm Nathan. This is 3 old viddies gossiping about nothing.
Fail.
There you go. See, that would have been really funny, but
would've been.
now it's lost. But I'm leaving it there. So this week we're going to welcome a new ham to the hobby. This would be Lindsay Yates of Unionville, Pennsylvania. KC3 SKO. That's Kilowatt Charlie 3 Sierra Kilowatt Oscar. You know, like the Grouch, the guy that lives in the can. A new technician in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
That's a good time
Awesome.
right there. Congratulations. Enjoy the hobby.
Indeed.
You boys got anything else? I think that about covers it for that one.
Yeah, I think that's.
My rear end hurts. I'm ready to get out of the stool.
We might be done.
Till next time, I'm Timmy,
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan.
and this is 3 old tech dudes, or 3 old biddies gossiping about nothing. See ya!
See ya.
Later.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on 3 Old Tech Dudes. Please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more tech old and new, tinkering at the workbench, repairs, ham radio, electronics, computers, and more. Please like this video and share 3OTD with your friends to help us grow the channel. We tweet at 3 Old Tech Dudes 1 on Twitter, and you can keep up with us on Facebook. Just search for 3OTD and look for our logo. Thanks so much for watching.